Sound of it, 7:20 ABC. It's 22 minutes past 5 right now. And I want to know, do you fancy yourself as a bit of an outdoor adventurer? You know, Russell Coight style, maybe. But someone who likes to get out into the great outdoors and has had wonderful experiences, but maybe you've had some near misses, some interesting experiences. I can share some. That's because I am a bit like Russell Coight. You can call through 1300 222 720 or tell us about your best outdoor adventure as well, because right now I'm speaking to Outdoors WA ahead of the spring and summer seasons. Of course, when we do like to head outdoors, Neil Lefebvre is Outdoors WA Executive Officer, and he joins me on the line. G'day, Neil. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really well.
Are you an outdoorsman?
I am, yeah. As my kids have grown up, liked just heading out onto the trails and things like that. Become a trail runner in later life, heading to the beach, whatever it might be, camping. I was going to say camping and fishing. I'm an awful fisherman. I would love to be able to fish. That's just a romantic ideal I've got.
You and I have something in common there. I pretend. But you know what, though, when it comes to fishing, let's face it, Neil, even if you don't catch anything or you catch something and you throw it back because it's too small, there's just something about it, isn't there, that just takes your mind off everything.
Absolutely. I mean, that ability to be out in nature, there's a load of global research and data that says it's great for your physical health, great for your mental health, and just that disconnecting. So it's awesome.
But you've got to be prepared. Now, Outdoors WA, what is it that you advocate? What are your concerns as we head into a spring and summer season? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so we're the peak body for the outdoor industry. So that comprises adventure tourism businesses, recreation businesses, outdoor educators. And of course, we're there to advocate for lots of people getting out and about into the outdoors, but also a strong theme around safety. And we've just launched a program on the weekend called Adventure Smart. And it was triggered by having seen probably a growing increase, what felt like a growing increase in the volume of stories in the newspapers about young people getting caught up on being rescued from bluff knoll, or tourists getting caught out in the wild and having to be rescued. And we felt there was something there, and we engaged with a bunch of agencies across government. And as we dug into the data, we actually discovered those people are caught up in it. But Gary, it's probably you and me, people of middle-aged men, shall we say, who are probably the main culprits here. And certainly it's a thing for locals in West Australia.
Hey, is it because there is a certain level among Australians who our brain tells us, we're used to the outdoors, so we know what we're doing, and we're too casual about the approach to what we're doing?
Yeah, I think there's a definite complacency here, and there's probably not been a good campaign that's focused around that generic safety in the outdoors. So part of the reason we did this, there's a lot of very individual specific campaigns around certain activities, lots of great stuff around water safety. But for those general trips that we'll do, whether it's heading out to camp and things like that, there's nothing there that's really drilled into some pre-planning that you should be doing. You look at things like slip, slop, slap for sun safety. Yep. No one thinks about heading out the door without putting on some sunscreen when it comes to summer. So part of the message we developed is around this concept of plan it, pack it, do it. Make sure that people are really prepared when they're heading out to the outdoors. So if something does go wrong, they've got a great chance of looking after themselves.
So, Neil, let's just determine, though, between the outdoors and the outback, I mean, where do you think a lot of your work would be centred on? Those that are going, outside of Metro Perth and perhaps the back and beyond to try their hand at four-wheel driving and camping and so on, or just outdoors, for that walk that I might do at John Forrest National Park this weekend, for example?
No, for the data we have, it's obviously spreads across the state, but we've sourced a lot of data around the state parks and the national parks, and there's a big concentration in Metro Perth. So about 30% of the incidents and rescues throughout the year occur within Metro Perth. And specifically at this time of the year, the turn from August to September and the start of spring, in Metro Perth over the last 5 years, we've seen consistently 62.5% lift in the calls for the number of rescues from John Forrest and places like that. So, yeah, it's the local trips where we're telling people to spend a bit of time to prepare and think about how they what they take out of it.
Give us a bit of an idea about that. You can do, I know, up at John Forrest, is it, if I'm giving examples, Eagles View Walk, I think it's about 16 kilometres.
Yeah, beautiful.
If you're a reasonably fit person, you think that's just a matter of, having a decent bottle of water in your bag and off you go. What would you say to that concept, or is there more what should be done?
Look, I think the key component here comes into having a bit of preparedness for things that could go wrong. So, you're heading out to Eagle View, you've planned your route, you know what you're going to be taking on. In that concept of planning, it's always worth checking ahead to know what the weather's going to be like. So there's a large bulk of the rescues that occur are related to temperature, so people really not having planned for the temperature. If you do have a slip and a trip, luckily in somewhere like that, at least there's consistently quite a lot of people around. Certainly, if you're somewhere a little bit more remote, you could be spending your time hidden out there as the evening's cutting in and it's getting cooler, and that can obviously impact your time as well. So there's slips and trips are the majority of things that require rescues. But, there's in nearly 60% of the rescues, we end up seeing more than one agency go in to pick people up and bring them home safely. So,
do you have a view yourself about, let's say, Bibbulmun Trap walking, whether or not you should have, or one of your party, if you're with others, should have an EPIRB or some sort of device?
Yeah, look, the definite recommendation would be in terms of that planning ahead, when you're considering where you're going to go to. If you're going to be out of mobile phone reach, you should definitely be thinking about an EPIRB, a mobile, one of the more current mobile phones that has that text to satellite capability for the emergency services. And, you always need to be telling people where you're headed off to and what time you expect to finish up on your hike, so that if something does go wrong, you've got other people alerted to coming out to look for you, or alerting the emergency services as well if need be.
So some of people might say, well, the elephant in the room in a discussion like this, and while I'm sure there are plenty of incidents that involve people who are living in Australia and have for a long time, but we do seem to have an issue with tourists when they come here. We saw recently, thank God she made it out, but that young girl that got lost north of Perth for a number of days. We have an issue with tourists that come here that just seem to be completely unprepared. People that go and fish off rocks, which, clearly pose a threat that I might know about, but they don't seem to take seriously. What do you say about that situation? How do you get through to their mentality?
Yeah, and look, that's part of developing this Adventure Smart program. And technically what we've done with that is bring all of the different safety messagings and campaigns from the different agencies into one spot, and created a set of really high-level, simple messaging that even somebody coming into WA for the first time, if that is the only resource they're finding, it's going to equip them to think and plan ahead a bit better for heading into the outdoors. Although obviously we've seen some tourists get into trouble over time, the data still tells us it's by and large it's you and me, Gary. It's the locals.
All right, that's enough of that, please, Neil. I have had some close shaves, but I'm still here. I'm still here to tell the tale. Hey, mate. So basically, you're saying if people go to adventuresmart.org.au, they'll find what they need to start the process. Checklists and so on.
Absolutely will. Some really simple checklists to help people just do that little bit of planning ahead, which could make all the difference to having a fun weekend, or a weekend with a few more turns in your plan.
All right. Well, stay safe, spring and summer. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Good on you, Neil. Good on you. Neil Lefebvre there. He's Outdoors WA Executive Officer. Adventuresmart.org.au was that website again. Tell us about your outdoor adventures. Have you had some close calls, some moments where you thought you might be lost? My hand's going up. I once got